The Lagos City cemetery was quiet at first. White tents flapped in the light harmattan wind. Mourners in elegant black kaftan and flowing black iro and buba filled the tent. A golden casket rested above a dark, open grave lined with fresh cement. On the casket lay Amara Okoro, Billionaire CEO, the queen of the three towers on Victoria Island. Her eyes were closed, cotton wool tucked in her nostrils, and her skin pale. Her husband, Chinedu, stood beside the casket with a folded handkerchief. Tears shone in his eyes. A pastor, Reverend Edewu, cleared his throat. Two grave workers stepped forward to lower the casket. Then a voice tore the air like thunder. "Stop! Don't bury her." Everyone turned, shocked by the statement. Some of the mourners lifted their phones to record the unfolding drama. At the back, a man in a tattered brown coat pushed through the crowd. His beard was overgrown and tangled. His hair was wild. A dirty old bag hung on his shoulder, heavy with the life he still carried. People pulled away from him as if he were a storm. The man pointed straight at Amara. His hand shook, but his voice did not. "She's not dead," I said. "Don't bury her." "Who is this?" someone whispered. "Homeless man," another muttered. "Security." Two guards moved to block him, but he stepped sideways and kept coming. The wind lifted his coat like wings. He stopped at the edge of the mat where the casket rested and faced the crowd. "My name is Obi," he said, breathless. "Listen to me. This woman is alive." Chinedu stiffened. His mouth hardened. "Get this madman out," he snapped. "Sir, you will respect the dead. Amara is my wife. She is gone. We will bury her in peace." The mourners murmured. Reverend Edewu lowered his Bible. The grave workers paused. Obi pointed again, firm, steady. "She is not gone," he said. "She was given a substance. It slows the breathing. It makes the body cold. It fools the eye. She looks dead, but she is not. Give her the neutralizer. Now." A wave of shock washed over the mourners. "Neutralizer," someone whispered. "What is he talking about?" Cameras tilted closer. A reporter leaned in. Chinedu's face tightened with anger. "Enough," he said, turning to the guards. "Remove him." But Obi did not move. He lifted his chin. "Chinedu," he said softly, like he knew him. "You know what you did. And Dr. Emeka knows too." The name dropped like a stone in water. Eyes flicked to the left. The family doctor, Dr. Emeka, stood with his stethoscope tucked in his pocket, his lips pressed thin. He looked at Obi the way a person looks at a locked door. "Pastor," Chinedu said, voice sharp. "Continue the service." Reverend Edewu hesitated. His fingers trembled on the page. Obi took one slow step closer to the casket. His eyes softened when he looked at Amara. "Madam," he whispered, almost to himself. "Hold on." Then he raised his voice. "Check her mouth. Touch her wrist. Warm her chest. She is there. I heard the plan with my own ears." Chinedu spoke of quick burial. Dr. Emeka signed the paper. "Please, give her the neutralizer." The hush deepened. Even the tent stopped flapping as if listening. A woman in purple lace stepped out from the first row. Her hands shook. "If there is a chance," she said, "we should check." "That is not necessary." Chinedu snapped. Sweat shone on his forehead. "We did everything." The doctor confirmed. "Let them check," someone said from the crowd. "What will it cost?" "Just check," another voice joined. Now the murmur grew into a wave. Heads nodded. Eyes narrowed at Chinedu. The guards looked unsure. Dr. Emeka cleared his throat. "This is ridiculous," he said, forcing a smile. Grief is making strangers speak nonsense. I examined. Obi turned to him, gentle but firm. Doctor, she gave you a hospital. She bought you a car. She trusted you. Something flickered in Dr. Emeka's eyes. He looked at Chinedu. Chinedu gave the smallest shake of his head. And that is when Obi dropped his bag on the grass, knelt by the casket, and did a simple thing. He took off his coat and folded it into a pillow. Please, he said to the pastor, to anyone brave enough. Help me sit her up a little. Just a little. She needs air. Then open her mouth, only a drop. Silence. The kind of silence that hurts. An older woman stepped forward. Her geli was tight and neat. Her eyes were wet. I am her auntie, she said. If there is one small thing we can do, we will do it. The spell broke. 2 women moved. A young man in a black suit placed his hand under Amara's shoulders. The grave workers stepped back to give space. Together, carefully, they lifted Amara just enough for Obi to slide the folded coat beneath her neck. Up close, Amara's face looked like sleep. Her lashes were long shadows. The cotton wool in her nostrils was white against her skin. Please remove the wool, Obi said softly. Slowly, the auntie nodded and with gentle fingers pulled the cotton free. The air seemed to move again. Obi took a small brown vial from his bag. It looked old, like it had seen many roads. He held it up for everyone to see. Neutralizer, he said. Her body was slowed by something bitter. This will walk her back. Chinedu lunged, but 2 mourners stepped between him and Obi. Let him try, one said. If it fails, we bury. If it works, then what? Then what? Chinedu spat. Then we thank God, the auntie said, eyes sharp as a blade. Dr. Emeka's jaw clenched. Do not put strange liquid. Doctor, the auntie said. If you are sure she is gone, this will do nothing. Let him try. All eyes settled on the vial. The sun slipped out from behind a cloud and rested like a hand on the scene, on the casket, on the open grave, on the man in the tattered coat, who looked like hope. Obi knelt. His hands were steady now, made strong by purpose. He twisted the cap and dipped the glass dropper into the vial. He turned to the auntie. Please help me open her mouth. The auntie slid a finger gently at the corner of Amara's lips. The young man in black lifted Amara a little more. Obi leaned close. The crowd leaned with him. Chinedu trembled. If you do this, he began, but his voice cracked. Obi held the dropper above Amara's mouth. 1 drop, he whispered. Come back, madam. He squeezes. A single clear drop falls. It lands on Amara's tongue. Everywhere was quiet, waiting for what would happen next. Obi counts under his breath. 1, 2, 3, nothing. 4, 5. A wind shivered through the tents. 6. Obi's hand shook. He raised the dropper for 1 more drop. Don't you dare. Chinedu shouted, stepping forward. The auntie lifted her palm. Stay back. Obi squeezed. The second drop falls. And in that tiny space between drop and tongue, before it touches, a sound crawls up from Amara's chest. So faint it could be wind or memory. Was that a cough? The drop touches. Amara's throat moves. Her lips part. And then the air around the cemetery broke into chaos. Screams, shouts, prayers, and gasps filled the place all at once. Phones tilted wildly, recording what no one could believe. Amara's hand had twitched, and now her lips parted with a faint cough. The sound was so soft, yet it cut through the noise like lightning. Obi's eyes burned with hope. He leaned closer. She's coming back, he said, voice trembling, but sure. I told you she's alive. The auntie clutched Amara's wrist, and her face lit up. She's warm. Lord have mercy, she's warm, she cried. Another woman screamed and fell to her knees in prayer, chanting, Alua Tise. God has done it. But Chinedu was not moved. His face twisted into fury. As Amara's body stirred, his hand darted inside his jacket pocket. He pulled out something small, metallic, its glint caught in the sunlight. Obi froze. Stay back. Chinedu roared, his eyes wild, spittle on his lips. She belongs in the ground. Do you hear me? In the ground. Two men in black suits lunged toward him, but he shoved them away with desperate strength. The crowd surged backward, panicked. Mothers pulled children close. Reverend Idowu dropped his Bible, his voice cracking in fear. Obi did not move. He stood his ground, his ragged coat brushing the grass, his beard shaking with the wind. His voice thundered again, stronger than before. Look at her, Chinedu. Look at your wife. She breathes. Everyone turned. And there it was, Amara's chest, rising and falling, weak, but undeniable. Another cough burst from her throat, louder this time. Her eyes fluttered like heavy doors trying to open. The crowd gasped as one. The auntie shouted, She's alive. She's alive. Amara's lips trembled, and a hoarse whisper escaped. Why? Her eyes half opened, glassy, and confused. She stared at the man looming over her. Her voice grew louder, filled with pain. Chinedu, why? The scene shifted in an instant. The strength drained from Chinedu's body. His hand dropped, the metallic object slipping from his fingers. It clattered onto the concrete beside the grave, a small syringe filled with cloudy liquid. Gasps rippled again through the mourners. The guards pounced, pinning him to the ground as he kicked and screamed. No! Chinedu roared. She was supposed to be gone. She was supposed to be, his words were cut off as the guards twisted his arms behind him. Sweat drenched his face, and the mask of grief he had worn melted into naked rage. All eyes swung to Dr. Emeka. The doctor had stepped backward, his face drained of color. He tugged nervously at his collar, sweat sliding down his temple. I pronounced what I saw, he stammered. I thought she was gone. Obi's voice cut sharp through the air. Liar. You helped him. You signed her death knowing she still lived. It was not chance. Amara coughed again, this time stronger. She struggled upright with the auntie's help, her hair tumbling loose, her skin damp with sweat. Her eyes, red and fierce, locked on Chinedu. Tears spilled, but her voice shook with power. What did I ever do to you, she said, her words cracking the silence. To deserve this? Chinedu froze in the arms of the guards. Amara's voice rose, trembling with anger and sorrow. I gave you power. I trusted you with a branch of my empire. I loved you despite my wealth. And this is how you repay me. The crowd erupted in murmurs. Some wept. Others shook their heads in disbelief. Amara's gaze shifted to Dr. Emeka, who stood rooted like a guilty tree. And you, she spat, her voice trembling. I built your hospital. I gave you a car. I lifted you when you had nothing. How could you betray me with him? Dr. Emeka stammered, his lips fumbling for words. I. But the truth was already clear, written in his sweat, in his silence. Amara's strength faltered, and she swayed. Obi was at her side in an instant, steadying her with gentle, calloused hands. His voice was soft now, stripped of thunder. Easy, madam. You are safe. She turned to him, her eyes meeting his. They were filled with tears, but beneath them was a glimmer of gratitude, fierce and raw. For the first time, she saw past the ragged beard and tattered coat. She saw the man who had saved her life. "Who are you?" she whispered, her breath shaky. "Why did you do this?" Obi lowered his eyes, his voice rough like gravel. "Because I knew the truth," he said. "I heard him yesterday in his car. He spoke of quick burial, of silence, of how the empire would be his. I couldn't let it happen. Not again." The mourners drew closer, hanging on every word. Amara clung to his arm, her body trembling, her breath shallow but steady. Her voice cracked as she spoke. You saved me. You gave me back my life." Chinedu screamed again, thrashing against the guards. "She should be mine. Everything should be mine." But his cries fell flat. Drowned out by the prayers rising from the crowd, by the sobs of those who had loved Amara, by the furious glares turned his way. Sirens wailed in the distance. The police were coming. Obi, still kneeling at Amara's side, lifted his head toward the approaching sound. His eyes burned, not with pride, but with something deeper. Sorrow, the memory of his own broken life, weighed on him like chains. Amara noticed. She touched his hand weakly. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Don't leave my side." And as the police vehicles rolled into the cemetery gates, their red lights flashing against the marble tombstones, everyone turned to watch the end of one chapter and the trembling beginning of another. Because Amara Okoro, thought dead, now breathed again. And the man who had dragged her back from the grave, the homeless stranger they had all ignored, was about to change everything. The trial of truth. The court was overflowing. Every seat was taken. Every corner crammed with people pressing forward to witness the case that had gripped the nation. Outside, television vans lined the street, cameras flashing as anchors whispered into microphones. The news was everywhere. Billionaire Amara Okoro rose from the dead, husband and family doctor arrested in shocking conspiracy on Victoria Island. Amara herself entered slowly, supported by Obi on one side and her auntie on the other. Her steps were unsteady, but her head was lifted high. She wore a plain black gown, nothing of her usual glittering elegance, but her presence filled the room. Gasps rippled through the crowd as she sat down at the front, her eyes fixed on the accused. Chinedu sat in the dock, his face pale, his eyes cold. Gone was the mask of grief he had worn at the funeral. Now his lips curled in disdain as he glanced at Amara. Beside him sat Dr. Emeka, his head bowed, his hands trembling. Sweat darkened his shirt under the courtroom's bright lights. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair and sharp glasses, banged her gavel. This court is now in session. The case of the state versus Chinedu Okoro and Dr. Emeka Afolabi. Charges: attempted murder, conspiracy to murder, and medical malpractice. The prosecutor rose, his voice firm and cutting. "My lord, what we have before us is not a simple matter of greed. It is the cold-blooded plot of a husband who sought to bury his wife alive, aided by a doctor who betrayed his oath. Their aim was to seize control of her empire, billions in assets, companies that feed families across this nation. But for the courage of one man, this wickedness would have been sealed under the soil." The crowd murmured. Many glanced at Obi, who sat quietly at Amara's side. His coat washed now, his beard combed, though his face still bore the scars of hardship. He looked down, uncomfortable under the sudden attention. The prosecutor turned toward Chinedu. "Do you deny plotting to poison your wife with a slow-acting compound designed to mimic death? Do you deny instructing this doctor to pronounce her dead prematurely and rush her burial?" Chinedu leaned forward, his voice cold. "I deny everything. This is nothing but lies spun by a mad vagrant and a woman too weak to understand her own body's failure. My wife was dying already. I merely accepted it." Gasps. Amara's jaw clenched. She rose suddenly, her voice shaking with rage. "You liar," she cried. "Look at me, Chinedu. You put poison in my food. You forced my doctor, my friend, to swear I was gone. You tried to bury me alive like trash. The judge banged the gavel sharply. Order in the court. But the electricity in the air was uncontainable. The prosecutor lifted a small vial sealed in evidence bagging. My lord, this was retrieved from the syringe found beside the grave. Analysis proves it is a paralytic toxin capable of slowing the heartbeat, making the victim appear dead. Only a trained doctor could confirm life. And yet, this doctor signed a death certificate. All eyes turned to Dr. Emeka, his face collapsed. He sobbed openly, his words tumbling. I was forced. He threatened me. Chinedu said if I didn't help, he would ruin me. He said I would lose my hospital, my family. I swear I only signed because I was afraid. Amara's face darkened. Afraid? You let him put me in a coffin. You let them lower me into the earth. You betrayed your oath and me. Dr. Emeka buried his face in his hands. Forgive me, Amara. Forgive me. The prosecutor turned to the judge. My lord, we have the poison. We have the syringe. We have the testimony of the victim herself. And we have the witness, the man who risked his life to speak the truth. Obi froze as the prosecutor's hand gestured toward him. The entire court turned to face him. Whispers rose, that's the homeless man. The beggar who stopped the funeral. The judge nodded. Mr. Obi Nwafor, please step forward. Obi rose slowly, each step echoing in the silent hall. He stopped at the witness stand, his rough hands gripping the wooden rail. The oath was read. He swore, his voice low but steady. The prosecutor leaned close. Mr. Nwafor, tell this court what you witnessed. Obi lifted his head, his eyes scanning the hall. He swallowed hard. Then his voice rang out, calm but heavy with truth. The day before the burial, I was under the bridge where I sleep. I heard a car parked nearby. 2 men were inside, Chinedu and Dr. Emeka. They were arguing. I heard Chinedu say, the poison worked. She is cold already. Tomorrow we bury her before anyone suspects. The doctor said he was scared, but Chinedu told him, do as I say, or you'll lose everything. The crowd erupted again. The judge shouted for silence. Obi's voice grew stronger. I knew then that if I didn't speak, they would bury her alive. I waited at the cemetery. When they brought her coffin, I begged them to stop. They called me mad, but I saw her fingers twitch. I could not let them lower her in. He paused, his eyes moist. I lost my wife and daughter years ago. I was powerless then, but not this time. Not again. The silence in the room was thick, broken only by the quiet sobbing of a few women in the gallery. Amara's eyes filled with tears, she whispered, God bless you, Obi. The defense attorney rose, his tone mocking. So we are to believe the word of a beggar? A man who sleeps under bridges? How do we know he did not imagine these words? How do we know he wasn't paid by my client's enemies to cause chaos? Obi's jaw tightened. He stood taller. I may be poor. I may sleep on the streets. But I do not lie. I have nothing to gain, only the truth to tell. The judge leaned forward, her face stern. The witness has spoken with courage. Let the court weigh his words alongside the evidence. Chinedu slammed his fists on the table. He's lying. They're all lying. But his voice cracked, desperate, hollow. The gavel struck again. Order. As the trial moved on, one truth was clear. The mask of Chinedu had fallen. The empire he dreamed of was slipping from his grasp, and Obi, the man he would never have noticed in his richest days, now stood as the key to his downfall. And as Amara sat, her hand clutching Obi's, a new thought sparked in the hearts of all watching. Perhaps this was not just her resurrection, but his, too. The trial of truth had begun, and nothing would remain the same. The verdict and a new beginning. The trial stretched into days. Each morning, the courtroom overflowed with reporters, business magnates, and ordinary people who had come just to see Amara Okoro alive and speaking. Every evening, the headlines blazed across Nigeria, from grave to courtroom, Amara's shocking return. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Chinedu sat stiff, his once perfect suits wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot from sleepless nights. Gone was the smooth-talking businessman the public once admired. He looked like a caged animal, pacing, snarling whenever a witness spoke against him. Dr. Emeka, in contrast, grew weaker with every session. He avoided Amara's eyes, his shoulders bent as though carrying the weight of his betrayal. On the fourth day, the prosecutor called forward a new witness, Amara's personal driver, Chike, a large man with honest eyes. He stepped to the stand, his voice steady. "My lord," he began. "On the night Madam collapsed, I drove her to the hospital. She was struggling to breathe. But when we reached the gate, Dr. Emeka told me to leave, that he would handle it privately. I begged to stay. He refused. 2 hours later, he told us she was dead." The court gasped. Amara covered her mouth, tears streaming down her cheeks. Chike bowed his head. "I knew something was wrong. Madam was weak, but not gone. I should have fought harder." The prosecutor nodded. "So you confirm, Mr. Chike, that Dr. Emeka insisted on isolation and gave no room for a second opinion?" "Yes, sir." The defense squirmed. Their case was collapsing like a wall of sand under rain. Next came the toxicologist, presenting charts and slides. The substance found in the syringe is called tetrodotoxin. In low doses, it mimics death, slows heartbeat, freezes muscles, masks breath. Without advanced equipment, one could easily mistake the victim for a corpse. It was intentional. This was no accident. The room fell silent. The weight of the evidence pressed on everyone. Finally, the judge turned to Chinedu. "Mr. Okoro, you have heard the charges, the testimony, the scientific proof. Do you have anything to say before this court passes judgment?" Chinedu rose slowly, his face twisted, half fury, half despair. His voice cracked as he spoke. "Yes, I have something to say. I loved Amara once, but she loved her companies more than me. Everything was always about her empire, her billions, her power. What was I? A shadow in her house, a husband in name only. I was supposed to share in her glory, yet she treated me like a servant." Amara flinched as though struck. The audience murmured, stunned. Chinedu's voice grew louder, his fists shaking. "So yes, I wanted it all. I wanted what was mine. If she had to die for me to live as a man, so be it." Chaos erupted. Shouts, gasps, cries of outrage filled the court. The judge banged her gavel furiously. "Order! Order!" Amara's tears spilled freely now. She stood, trembling, but strong, her voice rising above the noise. "You fool! Love is not stolen. Respect is not forced. You had everything, my trust, my home, my life. But your greed drowned you. You tried to kill me, and now you have killed yourself." Chinedu's eyes burned with madness. "I regret nothing," he roared, his voice echoing. Guards surged forward as he tried to leap across the dock. They held him down, shackles clinking as he screamed curses. Dr. Emeka broke into sobs, collapsing onto the floor of the dock. "Forgive me, my lord. Forgive me, Amara. I betrayed everything I swore to be. I deserve death." The judge's gavel thundered once more. The hall fell into tense silence. Her voice was firm, unshaken. "This court has heard enough. Chinedu Okoro, you are guilty of attempted murder, conspiracy to murder, and greed of the highest order. You are hereby sentenced to life imprisonment with hard labor. May your chains remind you of the life you tried to bury. Chinedu screamed as the guards dragged him away. It should have been mine. All mine. The judge turned to Dr. Emeka. And you, Dr. Emeka Afolabi, trusted with life, but dealing in death. Your betrayal of your oath is unforgivable. This court sentences you to life imprisonment as well. You will never again hold the life of another in your hands. Dr. Emeka collapsed into his chair, too broken to resist as police carried him out. The gavel struck a final time. Court dismissed. The hall erupted, some clapping, others weeping, all buzzing with the weight of history. Reporters rushed out to spread the verdict. Amara, exhausted, sank into her seat. Her body trembled with relief and pain. She whispered, "It's over." But beside her, Obi shook his head gently. "No, madam. It is only the beginning. You have your life again now. What will you do with it?" She turned to him, her eyes soft, her lips trembling with gratitude. "I wouldn't be here without you. You have no home, no rest. Yet you gave me both. Obi, you saved me." Obi looked away, his voice quiet. "I only did what I could not do before. My wife, my daughter. I failed them. But this time, I could not fail." Amara touched his hand, firm and warm. "You did not fail. You were my miracle." Around them, people gathered, trying to shake Obi's hand, clapping him on the back, praising him. He had been invisible for years, a shadow on the streets. Now he stood in the light. The man who stopped a burial, the man who saved a billionaire. Amara rose, still holding his hand. "You will not return to the bridge tonight," she said firmly. "From this day, you walk with me. If I lived again, then so will you." Obi's throat tightened. Tears welled in his eyes, but he nodded, silent. For the first time in years, he felt seen. And as they left the courtroom together, Amara, her auntie, and Obi at her side, the crowd outside roared like a storm. Cameras flashing, voices chanting his name, Obi. Obi. The man who stopped death. And though the chains had closed on Chinedu and Emeka, new doors were opening, doors that neither Amara nor Obi had ever imagined before. The battle for justice was won, but the journey of redemption had only just begun. The second chance. The heavy doors of Amara Okoro's mansion opened to a new season of life. The house that once smelled of morning now breathed fresh air. Its corridors filled with sunlight and hope. But behind the glow, the scars of betrayal lingered. After the trial ended and Chinedu and Dr. Emeka were sentenced, Amara invited Obi to stay at her estate. One evening after dinner, she led him into her private study. The room was lined with mahogany shelves, books stacked in neat rows, and a single lamp casting a warm glow. Amara poured 2 glasses of water and gestured for Obi to sit. His hands shook slightly as he held the cup. For a long time, he stared into it as though searching for courage. Finally, he spoke, his voice low and raw. "Madam Amara, there's something I've carried alone for years. Tonight, I must say it. I wasn't always like this. I was once a man with dignity, a software engineer, a husband, and a father. But one day, everything collapsed. I lost my job. My wife packed her things, and she vanished with my daughter. She left only a note." His voice broke. "A note telling me the child I raised, the girl I called mine, wasn't my blood." Amara's eyes widened, tears springing to them. Obi pressed his palms together tightly. "The betrayal destroyed me. I wandered the streets, unable to breathe, unable to live. I slept under bridges because hope abandoned me." His shoulders trembled. "But yesterday, under that bridge, I overheard Chinedu. He was making phone calls from his car. Planning to take over your companies after you were buried. His words froze my blood. That's why I ran to the cemetery. That's why I stopped them. For a long moment, silence filled the study. Only the faint ticking of the clock could be heard. Amara's hands shook as she reached across the table and clasped his. "Obi," she whispered, tears streaking down her cheeks. "You carried all that pain, and still you risked your life for me. Do you know what that means?" Obi's voice cracked. "It means maybe I still have a reason to exist." In the days following his confession, Amara refused to let Obi slip back into the shadows of her mansion. She saw something in him, not just a man who had saved her life, but a mind sharpened by hardship and loss. At first, Obi resisted. "Madam, I am no longer the man I used to be. Let me serve you quietly in the background," he said one morning as he helped carry files from her study. But Amara shook her head. "You will not hide anymore. You have given me back my life. Let me give you back yours." So Obi began helping with small duties in Anderson Holdings, carrying files, checking schedules, organizing reports. He moved with humility, keeping his head down. Yet little by little, his hidden brilliance surfaced. One afternoon, during a tense board meeting, the company's directors struggled with a corrupted presentation file. Panic spread across the room as investors waited impatiently. While others fumbled, Obi quietly stepped forward. In minutes, he reprogrammed the system and restored the slides. Gasps filled the room. "Where did you learn that?" a director asked in disbelief. Obi hesitated. "I was once a software engineer before everything fell apart." Amara's eyes softened with pride. She rose and announced firmly, "From today, Obi is no longer a helper in the background. He is my special advisor, and his counsel will guide this company." The board members exchanged looks, some skeptical, others intrigued. But no one could deny the calm authority in Amara's voice. For the first time in years, Obi stood tall. No longer a nameless wanderer, he was a man reborn, and with his input, Anderson Holdings was never the same again. Amara and Obi grew closer. They spent evenings in the study talking about life, faith, and second chances. She admired his honesty, his unpolished wisdom, his sincerity that cut deeper than diamonds. For the first time since her betrayal, she found her heart stirring. Quietly, Amara wished he might love her, not as the billionaire the world saw, but as a woman whose soul had been bruised. Yet Obi never seemed to notice the silent longing in her eyes. One afternoon, as they strolled in the garden, Obi spoke with unusual excitement. "Amara, I want you to meet someone. Her name is Juliana. She is kind, gentle. She makes me smile again." Amara's heart clenched. She forced a smile even as her chest ached. She had hoped, foolishly, that Obi might see her as more than a friend, but reality stood firm. He loved another. That night, Amara cried alone in her room. Yet by dawn, she resolved her pain into strength. "If he cannot be mine, then I will support his happiness." When Obi proposed to Juliana months later, Amara insisted on sponsoring the wedding. "It is my honor," she told him, her smile hiding the bittersweet truth in her heart. The wedding day was beautiful. The garden was decorated with white roses and golden drapes. Obi stood tall in a navy blue suit, his eyes glowing as Juliana, dressed in an elegant white gown, walked toward him. Amara watched from the front row, her eyes glistening. Though her heart once longed for him, she felt peace seeing him happy. When they exchanged vows, she clapped with genuine joy, whispering to herself, "This is what he deserves." Love, laughter, a new beginning. Months after Obi's marriage, fate surprised Amara, too. At a charity gala, she met George, a businessman known not for wealth alone, but for his humility and compassion. He admired Amara not as a billionaire, but as a survivor. Their friendship grew into something deeper. George brought back laughter into Amara's life. And for the first time since her near death, she felt whole. When George proposed months later, Amara said yes. At her wedding, Obi and Juliana sat proudly in the front row, clapping as she walked down the aisle. This time, Amara Okoro was not just a survivor, she was a woman finally claiming her full, glorious life. Life doesn't always deliver the love you expect, but it often delivers the love you need.